All right, chat. So let's talk about fighting game notation. So of course we are all pretty much familiar, especially if you play a lot of anime games. We're all familiar with numpad notation, but there's a bunch of other notations for some other games. Like there's the Tekken notation that uses like 1, 2, 3, and 4 and stuff like that. So you got something different. And then I believe Mortal Kombat also has their own notation, and then I believe Smash even got their own notation. So there's a bunch of games that have their own notation, and of course Street Fighter and I believe like SNK all use like the quarter circle forward and half circle back and stuff like that. Use that type of notation. But with the release of Street Fighter 6 on the horizon, there was a Twitter post that was actually making the rounds, and they were talking about using numpad notation for Street Fighter. So going out with the old boomer way of the quarter circle back and quarter circle forward and stuff like that, and embracing the 236 and the 214 for the new Street Fighter title. And then apparently I don't know how like relevant this page is to actually the Street Fighter scene, but there was of course a page that was saying they're not giving people an actual choice in the matter. So this is going to be something that they're going to put on their page, and all the notations for combos and stuff like that is just going to be in numpad notation. So this brought me to my question today: should all fighting games, or at least all the ones that can be put in a numpad notation, be put in the numpad notation? Now the reason behind numpad notation, and the reason why I feel like it was a very important thing for the anime scene, and why I think the anime scene actually developed this, is because it's a universal language to talk about combos. You know, when you're using the cues and stuff like that, that's an English alphabet letter, but usually the numerical 1 and 2 and stuff like that, that is sort of universal as far as like how everybody recognizes. So when trying to speak to other players, or specifically the Japanese players at the time, using numbers was much easier to talk about combos and develop these combos along with the Japanese players, with the language barriers that we have between English and Japanese. And this is still primarily the main reason I feel like why people do this, as well as it just being easier to write when it comes to actually doing notation. Now of course when it comes to people actually putting out the quarter circle back and stuff like that, they do abbreviate it to like the QCB and QC forward and stuff like that. So you see the QCF and the QCB as far as the abbreviations, which makes it on par with the 214 and 236. And this is sort of the actual argument that the Street Fighter players that want to stick to the usual notation are putting out for it, and saying like, hey, we can abbreviate ours just as well as you can. Like, it's not that hard to do it like this. Now another reason that some people were for the original notation is they were saying we can make it even shorter because of the half circle forward and half circle back. You know, that's HCF or HCB, which is going to just be a few letters rather than how we would write that in sort of numerical notation or numpad notation. We would say 4 1 2 3 6 for the half circle forward, or 6 3 2 1 4 for the actual half circle back. But we also have a way to actually do that in sort of the numerical way, which is the counter argument, where they say we can do 4 2 6 for the half circle forward, or 6 2 4 for the half circle back, which we could keep it in the same line of 3 characters just like they can, and make it to where it is universal and still in a short form just like theirs. So there's arguments for both sides, which I can definitely see. Now the benefit of course being the universal thing, as far as the universal language, that definitely has a plus benefit, because a lot of people understand the numerical values and how they actually work and how they actually function. A lot of people just know what they are. And of course there's a few gimmicks with the actual numerical values that I'm not pretty much sure I see inside of the actual notation, or the original notation for Street Fighter, where we do charges and like brackets and stuff like that to represent charges. And there's a bunch of like sort of like a legend chart where you can see like the actual like things of what things certain represent, and like how they actually are supposed to be used. Like, you know, the J with the dot is supposed to be representation of like a jump normal and stuff like that. There's a bunch of different ways to sort of make things a little bit more easier and coherent, to where we don't have to write a lot of things out. So this is a very interesting conversation, and there's good arguments on both sides I could definitely see. However, it just feels a little bit wrong to me, honestly, to sort of go into another community and demand a change. You know, sort of when people came to anime games back in the day, and there were players that didn't really want to learn numpad notation, we just had to explain how easy it is to actually learn it, because there were players that were saying like, why couldn't we like use the combo format, like sort of like how Street Fighter do it? And it's like, well, we do it like this. It's not hard to learn. You could just sort of learn it. I feel like for every game that you go to, I feel like it's only right to sort of just incorporate what is already there and just become part of that community and use what that community is already using, not trying to change what the community already has. I feel like that's sort of wrong almost. I don't know. It just doesn't feel right. It doesn't sit right with me. It just feels like, I feel like in order to honor what the community has already sort of put forth, you should just learn what they already have. I mean, it's not hard to learn what the Street Fighter players already put forth. And if you're playing or putting out combo stuff for your audience or for people that you know that know numpad notation, and you could put it in your format and stuff like that. But as far as universally of what the game should actually recommend or what the game should actually use, I think they should just sort of just use what they already have, to be honest. I think what they have is already fine. And this goes for the case of other games and stuff like that, like Tekken. I don't think we should try to like figure out a way to how to get Tekken into numpad notation, or how to get Smash or NRS games into numpad notation, or whatever notation you want to try to reform it into. I feel like every game has its own unique notation values, and I feel like that's why the anime scene sort of developed their own. It's cool that the anime scene has their own, and we have this sort of difference between the other communities, and I think that's what separates the anime community and these sort of games in their own right? So just like how back in the day we wanted people to embrace the numpad notation, I feel like it's only fair to embrace the notation of a Street Fighter game for the people that are coming into the game, because I don't know, they're coming from Dragon Ball Fighters or their first fighting game and Guilty Gear and stuff like that, and now they want to play the new Street Fighter, and just brand new players coming off across the board that's been using numpad notation because of the games they've been seeing, and of course this being a new notation. So it's just a bunch of, it feels like a Zoomer versus Boomer battle, but I just thought it was a pretty interesting one, and just saw the back and forth between what people are saying and the different counter arguments and how people are talking about it. But yeah, I just want to just talk about it for a quick second because I thought it was a very interesting conversation. But definitely let me know down in the comments below how you guys feel about everything. How do you guys feel about numpad notation versus any other notation in other games, fighting games that you played? Do you feel like numpad notation should be the universal way, or at least Street Fighter 6 or any game that could implement it? Do you think there's more benefits to using the numpad notation, or do you think it's only fair to try to learn the numpad or learn the notation of the game that you're going into out of respect of that community and such like that? Definitely want to hear what you guys got to say down in the comments below. Anyway, if you like anything I had to say, drop me a like, I greatly appreciate it. And if you want more from me, follow my socials. Also, don't forget to subscribe and turn notifications so the next video goes live. As always, my name is Daikin, and I'll see you next time. Signing out.